In the very beginning, only darkness existed, but God's Spirit was present, ready to create something wonderful and new from the emptiness. It was a time before light or life. With a powerful voice, God commanded, "Let there be light." Instantly, light appeared, breaking through the total darkness. God saw that this new light was very good. God then separated the light from the darkness. He named the light day and called the darkness night. The first day of creation was now complete and perfect. On the second day, God created a great space. This expanse separated the waters, creating a division between the waters below and the waters held up above. God called this vast expanse sky. It formed the heavens above the earth. This marked the end of the second day of God's amazing creation work. On the third day, God gathered the waters together. This allowed dry ground to appear for the first time. The world was beginning to take its shape. He named the dry ground land and the collected waters seas. God looked at his work and saw that it was good and pleasing to him. But God wasn't finished with the third day. He commanded the land to produce all kinds of plants, including those that make seeds and trees that grow fruit. Immediately, vegetation sprouted from the earth. Plants and trees of every kind appeared, each able to reproduce. God saw this new green life and was pleased. On the fourth day, God focused on the sky. He said, "Let there be lights in the sky." These lights would separate day from night and mark time. The lights appeared, dancing in the sky. They would be signs for seasons, days, and years. They brought a beautiful rhythm to the newly formed world. God made two great lights. The bigger light, the sun, would rule over the day. The smaller light, the moon, would govern the night's soft glow. He also scattered countless stars across the sky. These tiny, twinkling lights added beauty and illumination to the earth. God was happy with his celestial creations. On the fifth day, God turned his attention to the waters. He commanded them to be filled with living creatures. The seas would no longer be empty. Suddenly, the waters were teeming with life. Large sea animals and schools of colorful fish swam everywhere. The oceans became a vibrant and lively place to behold. God also created birds to fly in the sky. They spread their wings and soared high above the earth, filling the air with their beautiful and diverse songs. God blessed these new creatures. He told the fish and the birds to be fruitful and multiply, filling the seas and the earth with their kind. On the sixth day, God spoke again. He commanded the land to produce living creatures of all kinds, including livestock, wild animals, and crawling reptiles. In an instant, the earth was filled with animals. Herds grazed in meadows, wild beasts roamed the jungles, and reptiles moved across the ground. It was a paradise. God saw all the different animals he had made. He was pleased with the beauty and diversity of life that now filled the entire world. Finally, God decided to make his greatest creation. He said, "Let us make mankind in our own image and likeness, to be special above all other creatures." So, God created humans to be like him. He gave them a special role, to rule over all the fish, birds, and animals on the earth. God wanted humans to fill the earth and take care of it. They were given dominion over all of the wonderful things that God had created. God also provided food for his new creations. He told the humans they could eat from every seed-bearing plant and every fruit-bearing tree on the earth. He gave all the green plants as food for the beasts of the earth and the birds of the sky. Everyone and everything had what it needed. When God looked at everything he had made, he was very satisfied. His creation was perfect and complete. It was a masterpiece of his power and love. On the seventh day, God finished all his work. Because his creation was complete, he rested from all the work that he had been doing. God blessed the seventh day and made it holy. It was a special day of rest, marking the completion of the heavens and the earth. The story continues after the creation week. At that time, no plants had grown because there was no rain and no one to work the ground yet. Then the Lord God formed a man from the dust. He breathed the breath of life into the man's nostrils, and the man became a living being. The man's eyes opened for the first time. He was amazed by the brand new world that was all around him. His heart began to beat strongly. God then planted a beautiful garden in a place called Eden. It was filled with trees that were beautiful to see and provided delicious food to eat. In the middle of this special garden, God placed two very important trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. A river flowed out of Eden, watering the garden. It then split into 4 separate rivers that traveled to different lands, including one with pure gold. The Lord God placed the man in the Garden of Eden. His job was to take care of it and cultivate the beautiful land he had been given. God gave the man one single rule to follow. He could eat from any tree in the garden, but he was not to eat from one specific tree. You must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, God warned. If you do, you will surely die on that very day. God then brought all the animals to the man. The man's task was to give a name to every single living creature that God had just made. The man named all the livestock, the birds, and the wild animals. But even with all these companions, the man was still feeling all alone. God knew that it was not good for the man to be alone. So he decided to make a suitable helper, a perfect companion just for him. God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep. While he was sleeping, God took one of the man's ribs and closed up the space with flesh. From that one rib, the Lord God created a woman. She was carefully and lovingly shaped to be the perfect partner and companion for the lonely man. When the man woke up, he was amazed. He looked at the woman and exclaimed, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." He decided to call her woman because she was taken out of man. The man later named his wife Eve because she would be the mother of all. This is why a man leaves his parents and is united with his wife. The two of them become one flesh, a new family unit together. In the beginning, Adam and Eve were both naked. However, they felt no shame about it because they lived in a state of pure innocence and trust. They lived happily in the beautiful Garden of Eden. Their days were filled with laughter and joy as they explored the paradise God had made for them. But a cunning serpent was watching them from the shadows. The serpent, who was wicked, approached Eve with a tricky and deceitful question to plant doubt. "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" the serpent whispered. Eve replied that they could eat from any tree except one. The serpent lied to Eve, saying, "You will not certainly die." He tempted her by saying that her eyes would be opened and she would be like God. Eve desired the forbidden knowledge. She gave in to the temptation, took the fruit from the tree, and ate it. Then she gave some to Adam. As soon as they ate the fruit, their eyes were opened. For the first time, they realized that they were naked, and they felt ashamed of it. They quickly sewed fig leaves together to make coverings for themselves. They then tried to hide from God among the trees of the beautiful garden. When they heard God walking in the garden, they hid. God called out, "Where are you?" Adam replied that he was afraid because he was naked. God asked, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" Adam then blamed the woman. The woman, in turn, blamed the serpent for deceiving her. God then turned to the serpent and pronounced a curse upon it for its wicked actions. The serpent was cursed to crawl on its belly and eat dust. God also put enmity between the serpent's offspring and the woman's offspring forever. God then told the woman that she would experience great pain in childbirth. He also said that her husband would rule over her from now on. To the man, Adam, God said the ground was now cursed. He would have to work hard and sweat to get food from it for his entire life. God reminded Adam that he was made from dust. He said, "For dust you are, and to dust you shall return." This was the consequence of disobedience. Then the Lord God made clothes from animal skins for Adam and his wife. He dressed them before sending them out of their beautiful garden home. God banished them from the Garden of Eden because they had sinned. They could no longer live in that place of perfect communion and beauty with him. Adam and Eve had two sons, Cain and Abel. Cain worked the soil as a farmer, while his younger brother Abel became a shepherd of flocks. One day, they both brought offerings to God. God was pleased with Abel's offering from his flock, but was not pleased with Cain's offering from the ground. Cain became very angry and jealous of his brother Abel. Abel tried to reason with him, saying that God looks at the sincerity of the heart. But Cain's envy grew. One day, he asked Abel to come out to the field with him. There, he attacked his brother and killed him. God asked Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" Cain lied and said he didn't know, asking, "Am I my brother's keeper?" It was a terrible crime. God knew what Cain had done. He cursed Cain, banishing him from the land and making him a restless wanderer on the earth for the rest of his life. As time passed, humanity became very wicked. God was so sad about the evil in the world that he decided to send a great flood. But God found one righteous man named Noah. He told Noah to build a huge ark, a large boat, to save his family and the animals. Noah obeyed God, even though his neighbors mocked him. He and his family worked hard for a long time to build the ark exactly as instructed. God then told Noah to bring 2 of every kind of animal into the ark. He was also to bring 7 pairs of every clean animal. Once Noah, his family, and all the animals were safely inside the ark, God shut the door. Then the rain began to fall heavily on the earth. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights. The water covered everything, including the highest mountains. All life on earth outside the ark was destroyed. The ark floated safely on the water. After the rain stopped, the water slowly receded, and the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. Noah sent out a dove, which eventually returned with an olive leaf. This was a sign that the floodwaters had gone down and dry land appeared. Noah and his family left the ark. God made a promise to never again destroy the earth with a flood. He set a rainbow as the sign. After the flood, Noah planted a vineyard and made wine. One day he became drunk and lay uncovered in his tent, which led to a family problem. His son Ham saw him and mocked him. But his other 2 sons, Shem and Japheth, respectfully covered their father without looking at his nakedness. When Noah found out, he cursed Ham's son, Canaan. But he blessed Shem and Japheth for the respect and the great dignity they had shown him. Noah's sons and their families repopulated the whole earth. Their descendants spread out, forming the different nations and peoples of the ancient world. Later, people who all spoke one language gathered to build the city. They wanted to build a giant tower that would reach all the way to heaven. They were proud and wanted to make a name for themselves. But God saw their arrogance and decided to put a stop to their ambitious building project. God confused their languages. Suddenly, no one could understand each other. The work on the tower stopped, and the people scattered across the earth. This place was called Babel because it was where God confused the languages. It was a lesson about the price of human pride and arrogance. Later, God chose a man named Abram from Ur. He told Abram to leave his home and go to a new land that God would show him. God promised to make Abram into a great nation. He also promised to bless all the peoples on earth through him and his future descendants. Abram obeyed God. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all his belongings and traveled to the land of Canaan, the land God promised. A famine forced Abram and Sarai to go to Egypt. Fearing for his life, Abram told Sarai to say she was his sister, not his wife. The Pharaoh took Sarai into his palace. But God sent plagues on Pharaoh's house. Pharaoh then returned Sarai to Abram, and sent them away from Egypt. Back in Canaan, Abram and Lot's herds became too large for the land. They separated peacefully, with Lot choosing the valley near the city of Sodom. God reaffirmed his promise to Abram, telling him that his descendants would be as numerous as the dust of the earth and would inherit the land. God later appeared to Abraham as three men. He promised that his wife Sarah, who was very old, would have a son within the next year. Sarah laughed at this idea, but God said that nothing is impossible for him. The visitors also told Abraham about the coming destruction of Sodom. Abraham pleaded with God to spare the city if righteous people were found there. God agreed not to destroy it if even 10 righteous people lived there. Angels went to Sodom to rescue Lot and his family. They urged them to flee before the city was destroyed. Lot's wife looked back and became salt. God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah with fire. He did this because of the great wickedness of the people who were living in those two cities. Just as God had promised, Sarah gave birth to a son in her old age. Abraham named him Isaac. He was the child of the promise. Later, God tested Abraham's faith in a profound way. He commanded Abraham to take his only son, Isaac, and offer him as a sacrifice. Abraham was about to obey, but an angel stopped him. God provided a ram for the sacrifice instead, proving Abraham's complete faith and obedience.